Hey guys, well it's Wednesday, so it's time for a new video, and today we're going to do a request. So we're going to do a prop for a Wild West scene, a frying pan, but we're going to do the full process. So we're going to do the modeling, the UVing, the texturing, the whole 9 yards, all right? And before we jump in, just a quick reminder, the 3D Modeling Challenge is closing on November 15th. So if you still want to send in an entry, I'll put a link below, all right? Here we go. Okay guys, well we're going to do a request as mentioned. We're going to do a Wild West styled frying pan for a saloon scene that I'm working on. And because it's a fairly uncomplicated, everybody should be able to follow along. But that said, I'm going to do the full process. So we're going to do modeling, UVing, creating a high poly in ZBrush. We're going to go into Substance Painter and all that kind of stuff, okay? Right, so let's get started with our model. I'm not going to use a reference here because I pretty much know what it looks like, but you can if you like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a simple polygon cylinder, and this is going to be our low poly initially. So we're going to push that down, and then I'm going to jump into the top. I'm going to right click, go to face, drag select the top faces, jump back in, shift drag select the whole bottom part there, and hit delete. So that's our bottom plate basically. And now we're going to go in and we're going to double click on this edge right here. Control E to extrude. Let's hit W to pull up. And we can start to shape our initial bottom for our pan. Okay. Now I'm going to jump views here, so I can hit R to scale that out like so. We're going to hit G to repeat, W to pull up. And keep in mind this is a frying pan, so you shouldn't go too high, right? Maybe one more. And certainly not higher than that. Let's scale it out just a little. Okay. So now that we have that, this should be fine for our low poly. I don't have any n-gons here, as you can see. I got triangles going on here. I got nice quads going on there, so this is all good. Okay. Now I do want to have some thickness here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit Control E to extrude. Let's try 0.1. That should be fine. And like I said, fairly low poly, so we're good there. Okay. Now we need a handle, of course, on this guy, and what we'll do there is we'll go in and we need to start at the top here. So I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's hit Control E to extrude. Let's hit W to pull out, like so. We're going to jump back into the top view here, after frame, 4 for wireframe mode. And what I want here is for all the vertices to be aligned, okay? So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go to vertex, and I'm going to drag like this. I'm going to hold down X, snap it to that one right there, like so. And we'll do the same here. And then what we'll do is we'll take all of this and we'll hit R and we'll push it in to kind of make that handle nice and narrow, like so. And we also want to push in the bottom part. So for that, I'm going to go into edge and I'll take these two, the W, push that into, let's say about there. And then we're going to tweak the rest of it a little bit. So we'll take 1 and 2 as well, push that up there like so. So that's not too bad. We're going to go back in. We're going to select those faces. Control E to extrude again. W to pull out. And from here, we're going to start to shape our handle. Okay. So let's pull it out a bit further. Let's say to about here. Hit R to push that in. G to repeat. W to pull out. And R to push in. Let's have a look from here. G to repeat, W to pull out, and G and W, G and W, G and W, and now we're going to start to flare that out again a little bit. So So we're going to hit R, we're going to kind of scale that out like so. G to repeat one more time, W to pull back, and R to push that in like so. Okay, let's see what we got here. That kind of looks okay. Let's go in here and let's tweak this guy a little bit. So we're going to take these two edges, and actually let's take the vertices. We'll do that. We'll take this and this, and we'll just kind of push that in a little, maybe the top ones as well, so that will smooth that nicely. Okay, now we can do that for these guys too, I guess. This one and that one should look okay. And then what I basically want is to have a hole here so I can hang that up, right? And I also maybe want to change the height there a little bit. So we're going to go in here, and what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to right click, go to vertex, hit 4 for wireframe mode. We're going to take these, hit W, raise them up a little, skip one from both ends, raise it up some more, and check the one in the middle like that. Okay, so now we want that hole on the top there, and that hole is okay if that's a little bit of an angle. That's fine, because that's basically how it will be on the wall anyway. Okay, so for the hole in the handle, what I want to do is this, trying to see if that's the best solution, but we'll find out. I'm going to go in and I'm going to take this edge, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Okay, we're going to go, let's see, to detach, which means that if I now take these faces right here and I hit W, I should be able to move that like this, and that's kind of my point. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to drag select this, and I'm going to do that too. Hang on, let me just take this here. Let's see how far we're going to go here and still keep things symmetrical. So let me look from the top. Okay, that's not too bad. And then what we'll do is we will close up the gap on the top there. And the best way to do that is, let's see, what I'll do is I'll take this, Control E to extrude, W to move out, and then hit R, push them in like this, and then we're going to go in here and we're going to go to face. Let's get rid of those. Get rid of those. We're going to go in here and we're going to go and take these edges and these edges, and we're going to go to Edit Mesh and Bridge, option box, linear path, 1 is fine, click on Bridge, and there you go. And then we need to close up the rest. So we're going to take this, we're going to G to repeat, let's take this, G to repeat, all right. And as we want to make sure that everything is positioned correctly and there's no gaps or anything, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to drag select all of these verts, and I'm going to go to Edit Mesh and Merge, and that's fine. We'll do that. So now if I hit 3 to smooth this guy out, we shouldn't have any issues. Okay, now this is looking clean. Yeah, it's good. So I'm happy with this as my low poly, right? So I'm going to hit 1 to go back. What we're going to do is we're going to go in here, we're going to go to Edit, Delete by Type History, Let's go to modify and freeze transformation, and we're good. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to UV this guy. So we're going to go in UV and UV editor. This is what we have so far by default. Let's go back in and let's do an automatic projection, which will give us this. That's not necessarily the way I want it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to right click at a UV shell, drag select everything, right click and go to, let's see, cut and sew and move and sew, which will give one big blob like so. And then I can put in the cuts myself. So what I want is, for example, let's get this out of the way here, to cut off that handle section. So I'm just going to select that. Like so. I'm gonna right click, go to cut and sew and cut. Then I want to have a seam, and where I will do that is go to edge again. Let's do the whole bottom part there. That's fine. So I'm gonna hit G to repeat. We'll do the top. And we'll hit G to repeat. We want to cut that inside as well. G to repeat. Let's go in here. G to repeat. So if you now go back in here, drag select everything, and then right click and go to modify and unfold. Starting to get a bit better. We're going to right click, go to UV shell, take this, move it out of the way, and then we got this stuff. We're going to drag select, and we're going to go to modify and come on, modify, and let's do layout. Okay, at least you can see we have the separate handle parts. They're not to scale or anything yet. This is the out section there, so we can go in here and right click and go to edge and cut it right there. So we're gonna right click, go to cut, and then we need to cut the inside of this handle section here. So we can do 1 and 2. And hit the G to cut again, and then we're going to go in here again, right click everything, right click, modify, unfold, and right click, modify, and layout. Alright, so let's look at the pan itself. I want to have a couple of cuts there as well. So right click edge, we're going to go around on top there. Let's see. Hit 4 frame mode so I can see it better. That seems to be okay. So we're going to right click, cut and sew and cut. Then we're going to go in here and we're going to select the bottom, and we're going to G to repeat, and then we're going to cut it in the back there where you can hardly see it. And I actually don't want to cut it all along, just on the pan itself. So that would be that, looks like. G to repeat. Let's unfold this again. Let's see what we got so far. Modify and unfold, and then right click. Let's do UV shell, drag select, and let's go to modify and layout again. And we're starting to get some good results here. So what do we got? Let's go in. We got the bottom, looks good. Top, we can do a cut there. We can go in and we're gonna click on this one all the way around. Right click, cut and sew and cut. Let's cut the inside here. 1, 2, and come on. 3, G to repeat. We'll repeat that process one more time. Drag select, let's go to modify, let's go to unfold, and then let's drag select again and go to modify and layout. And let's see again what we got. Okay, so right click UV shell, we have the inside of the pan, we have the bottom of the pan, like that. Okay, that's fine. We have the bottom part of the handle, we have the top part of the handle, we have the surrounding part, and then what else do we got? We got the inside, and we got the inside of that guy. Okay, so not too bad. Now we need to tweak a little bit, so we're gonna go and focus on this for a second. Let's make that a bit bigger. Okay, so we're gonna take this, move it here, this, move it here. This guy, we need to stay in our 0 to 1 space, of course, so I'm going to move that in here. I'm going to take this guy, move it up here, hit E and rotate that, and then hit R and scale it, hit W to move it. Make sure that's basically the same size, and they might need to be made smaller, from what we'll see. Here I'm going to go into Edge and take these two and go to Cut and Sew and Move and Sew. That's a little bit too much. Just this right here. Just cutting that and moving that. There you go. Okay. So that's that. UV shell. Let's unfold that again. Looks nicer. So we're gonna move this, hit W, move it over here. And as always, guys, this is not necessarily the process, it's my process, so you know, just what I'm used to. Okay, so I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna kind of scale that down, make sure it fits in my 0 to 1 space like this. That looks okay. I'll move this out of the way, and I'll move this out of the way, and this for now. Let's move this in. We'll move this in. We'll move that in. And now let's see if we can get these guys in here one way or the other. That's that little section that was the inside of that hole in the handle. And then we've got these two. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try to squeeze everything up a little. And maybe by rotating this guy, I can save some space. So I'll hit W and I'll move it in like so. So I can take this guy, move it in here. This one I'll move out of the way for a second. This will bring in, and we'll kind of rotate that. And hit W and push that down. Make sure they don't touch. Same here, let's rotate that. And again, W, push down, don't let them touch. Take this, move it in here. And that should work. Nothing is touching. We don't want any bleeding areas either, so I'm just going to slightly move everything around. So it looks like that is our UV. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click, go and select the whole thing one more time, edit type history. We're going to go to modify and freeze transformation, and then I'm going to go to file, export selection. Let's see, I'll go to my desktop. I'll create a new folder. We'll call it frying pan. Open that up, and we'll call this low poly pan UV'd. OBJ. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into ZBrush and we're going to create a high poly. Here we go. Left click and drag, pull that out, hold shift to snap it, click on edit, click on make polymesh 3D. And let's see, I'm gonna hit P to turn on perspective mode, just a personal preference. And then let's see, this is still kind of rough. Maybe we can do one more step to smooth it down a little bit, and we'll keep that as our low poly. So that said, let's go into geometry, and let's do one subdivide. Yeah, it's a bit better. It's a bit better. Okay. So we're going to keep that as our low poly, right? So we're going to go into our subtool menu. It's still called low poly, so that's fine. Then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate that, and we'll turn this little guy off, and this guy we're going to rename. So we're going to go in here and we'll rename, and we'll call this guy high poly. And the reason why I have that prefix is because this interface, what I'm using right here, is bought. So let's see, I'll just call this high poly and OBJ. That's fine. Okay, so we got that. Now this guy we need to smooth down quite a bit. So we're going to go into our divide again. And let's go in here, and we're going to bump that up. 68,269, 1.74 million, and maybe one more. 4.2 million. That's fine. Okay. So this is our pan. Now what we want to do is we want to kind of ding this up a little bit. Nothing crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our brushes. I'm going to use, I'm going to use my trim dynamic brush, standard, and just, you know, some little detail here, right? So let's see what we got. I'm just going to bang that up a little bit. Not too crazy. Just so it looks a little bit worn. I'm just going to bring that size down a bit. Let's go back a little bit. They seem to be a bit too much, so bring that intensity. So now you have some more natural looking effects. It's supposed to be cast iron, so you kind of want to see that in your model, right? And as always, I'm doing this very quick and very abrupt. Take your time, look at references, make sure you give it the detail it deserves. I'm just going to smooth this bit a little bit here. Okay, and we'll do a bit more. You get the idea, right? So play with that as long as you will and want until you're happy with it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go and export this, okay? So we're going to go back to our subtool menu. This is the one that's highlighted, so we're going to go up here to export, and I'm just going to tweak this name right here. So I'll just call it high poly. High poly pan. The fact that the high poly is UV'd is not relevant and not the case, so high poly pan OBJ. All right. Save that out, and then we're going to wait a second. It's merging the UV chords. Okay, so the high poly has been saved out. Now, as I said, I tweaked the low poly a little bit. So we're going to turn off the high poly. We're going to turn on the low poly and select this guy. Now, we kind of need to decide whether this is the one we want to use or not. So what I'll do is I'll save it under a different name so we have both options, okay? So it's 1048 polys, which is a bit much for a low poly model, especially something like this. So I guess we're going to go with the original one, but I'm going to save this one out anyway, okay? So we're going to go to export, and I'm going to call this low poly OBJ, etc. number 2, just so we have that as an option. Okay, and now we can go into Substance Painter and texture this guy. Here we go. Alright, and there we are. So we're going to go to File, we're going to do New. We're going to leave this at PBR Metal Rough. We're going to go to Select and select our mesh, which is in the folder Frying Pan. We're going to select let's do the higher poly, low poly. Actually, let's try the original one. We'll try the original low poly one. We're just going to leave everything else at default and click OK. And there you go. And as you can see, it's pretty clunky, but you know, it should be okay. So we have that, and let's see, what we can do is we can bake our initial maps. Okay, so we're going to go to Big Textures. I'm going to leave this, I'll set this to 1K, it's fine. We're going to go in here, high poly mesh. We're going to select that. We're going to take our high poly and open that up. I'm going to leave all of this alone. I'm going to turn off color ID, everything else I'm going to leave alone, and all of this stuff I'm going to leave alone as well. Let's see what we've got here. I don't have any nomenclature that's aligned, so I can leave that alone too. And I'm just going to bake the initial textures. Okay, here we go. Alright guys, well, as you can see, bake turned out okay. We have maps down here all ready to go, and of course my detail isn't that great because I spent close to no time on that. For you guys, it's important to spend your time in ZBrush and add proper and nice details, okay? It's not about my model, it's about yours, and it's about you guys understanding the techniques, and I don't want these videos to take forever, okay? So now that we have this, a couple of things I want to do. I want to start off by adding a rust layer. I want this to be a pretty grungy frying pan, so kind of worn and beat up and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off in my materials here, and let's just type in rust. Okay, let's go into our materials. Maybe we got some rust there. We should. Yeah, there you go. Take rust fine and bring that in and drop that in like so. And then I want to cover that over with painted steel. Now it's not supposed to look like painted steel, but more like cast iron, but I think that will work quite well. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to select painted steel. And let's pull that in and drag that on top of, okay, so we won't see the rust anymore like this. And once you have that, what you want to do is two things. One is to go into that painted steel layer, click on the color, go in and turn it to black like so. And then maybe go in and change the paint roughness because it's kind of shiny. So we'll do something like this. Looks okay. And if you want to check the lighting on this, just hold your shift key and right click and move it around, and you'll be able to rotate that light. Okay. So now that we have that, what I want to do is I want to kind of take away a lot of that blackness to get the rust come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this guy and I'm going to add a white mask. Now I can now go in with a black brush, and as I paint you will see that rust show up. But instead of doing that manually, what I want to do is add a generator. So I'm going to right click again, I'm going to go add generator, and I'm basically going to load a preset that will allow me to play with some settings, and in this case it's based on the curvature map. Okay, so if I go into the generator, I can choose the option on the bottom right here which says edge wear. Now when I choose that, it will almost cover everything in rust. And now we're going to go into the settings here and we're going to play with that wear level. Now by pushing that up, you can see that more black will come through. If I push it all the way over to the left, it's all rust. Push it all the way that way and you can see we've got a lot more black going on, starting to look a little bit more realistic. Now like I said, this is a pretty grungy frying pan. We got wear contrast that we can play with if you want to tone it down a bit. Let's see, the grunge amount, we can bring that up or down, and let's just keep it pretty high. The scale, be careful with that. If you push it too far to the right, you'll see a lot of repetition going on. You don't want that. So I like to kind of push it down to something like this, so basically no repetition at all. Let's see, the smoothness of the edge, you can play with that. And it will add a little bit darkness to the pen, which is good. Ambient occlusion masking, you can do that. I like to keep it fairly to the left. And then let's see, the weight of the curvature. Now, by playing with that, you'll see that the hard edges become a little bit less black, but you're also taking away a lot of blackness from the handle. So I'm going to go back there to, I would say, something like so, okay? Now, that will give you a pan looking like this. Now, what you can do here is you can now go in and add a layer. So we'll go in here and we'll add a layer, and you can go in with the black brush. So simply take a, where'd it go? A brush like so. We'll do something that looks a bit spreaded out. We'll go in here, we'll change the base color to black. Okay. Let's go up and see what we got here. The size, you can increase that quite a bit. The flow, you don't want it to be too harsh, and we'll do a little test on that. Everything else looks okay, and I basically only want the color. So I'm going to turn off the height, roughness, normal, and metal. And let's just simply go in here and add some darkness to our pen, right? And maybe a bit rusty in the middle there, just so it's not too over the top. Maybe that edge right there. Okay, we'll do that. You can do the same on the bottom if you would like, of course. And now you can actually add a little bit of specularity there if you want it to look a little bit greasy. You could do that, depending on what you want. So what we can do is we can go in here and let's turn on that metalness again. So metal, and then we'll go in here and we'll increase that slider a little bit. And if we now hold down Shift and right click, you'll see it becomes a bit more shiny, right? Okay. Now, that is basically it for this guy. So what we'll do here is we'll switch modes. We'll go to rendering mode. And here you can choose which one you want to use for your background. I'm going to leave this basically at panorama, which is the default. I'm going to increase samples. Let's leave that alone. That's fine, that's fine. You can increase the exposure a bit if you want it to be a little bit brighter. You can rotate it if you want to do that for your light, but I think it's I think it wasn't too bad, like so. Let's see what else. I don't really want to see the backdrop, so I'm going to do a clear color instead, something like so. And let's see what else. We want ground, which is good. Yeah, I think that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to render this guy, and it's already running, as you can see, and we'll give that a second till it's done. Well, there you have it, guys. A very low poly frying pan. And yeah, that's it for this tutorial. If you've got any questions, let me know as always. If I can help, I will. Okay, see you guys next time. Bye. Well, thanks for watching, and before you go, please hit that MH button to subscribe, okay? See you guys next time. Bye.